The clerk did not even look up when he stamped the transfer papers. He was tired, overworked, and had processed 300 assignments that day. His fingers slipped on the keyboard. He typed 77 Delta instead of 77 Delta Administrative. He did not notice. He would never know that this small mistake would change galactic history. Lyion accepted her papers with trembling excitement. She was young by Thessari standards, barely 40 cycles old, and this was her first military posting. Her people were not warriors. The Thessari were small, delicate beings with skin that glowed soft blue when they felt strong emotions. They were known for three things across the galaxy: perfect record-keeping, skilled diplomacy, and absolutely zero combat ability. Their homeworld had no predators, no wars, and no violence of any kind. She had trained for years to become an administrative specialist. She imagined her new posting would involve organizing supply requests and filing reports. A quiet life, a safe life. She boarded the transport ship and found her seat near a window. The ship was crowded with beings from dozens of worlds, all heading to different assignments across Coalition space. Lyion smiled at her neighbors. A Gorvani soldier, massive and covered in natural armor, saw her papers and moved to a different row without a word. A pair of Kesith traders exchanged glances and whispered to each other. Strange, Lyion thought. Perhaps they were just unfriendly. As the journey continued, more beings noticed her assignment papers. The reactions grew worse. A Varadi merchant actually stood up and walked to the opposite end of the ship. A group of young soldiers from various species grew quiet whenever she passed. Finally, an old freight captain took the seat beside her. His scales were gray with age, and he smelled of engine grease and hard experience. Unit 77 Delta? He asked, reading her papers openly. Yes, Lyion said proudly. My first assignment. The old captain was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out a small recording device. You should make your final messages now, he said. While you have time. Lyrion's glow flickered with confusion. I do not understand. Monster unit, the captain said. That is what they call 77 Delta. It is a human special operations team. The most dangerous soldiers in Coalition space. They recruit only from Earth's worst regions. Places where the environment itself is trying to kill everything that lives. He shook his head slowly. No alien has ever served with them. No alien has ever survived serving with them. There must be a mistake, Lyion whispered. Probably, the captain agreed. But military bureaucracy does not fix mistakes. It buries them. He patted her small hand with rough kindness. I'm sorry, little one. The transport dropped Lyion on a barren moon 3 days later. The sky was gray. The ground was gray. The air tasted like metal and regret. She walked toward the compound with her single bag of belongings, her glow dim with growing fear. She had expected an office. Desks. Filing systems. Perhaps a nice window with a view of something other than rocks. Instead, she found a training yard. The humans were everywhere. They were huge. Lyion knew humans were considered medium-sized by galactic standards, but these humans seemed like something else entirely. They lifted weights that should have been impossible. They fought each other with controlled violence that made her vision blur. They ran obstacle courses that looked designed to kill the participants, and they were laughing, bleeding and laughing. Lyion stood frozen at the gate, unable to move forward, unable to run away that a human woman noticed her first. She was not as large as the others, but her body was covered in scars that told stories of violence Lyion could not imagine. Her left eye was artificial, glowing faint red. She walked toward Lyion with the easy grace of a predator who had nothing to prove. Lost? The woman asked. Her voice was surprisingly gentle. Lyion held up her papers with shaking hands. I'm assigned here. I think there has been a mistake. The woman took the papers. Read them. Read them again. Then she started laughing. It was not cruel laughter, but it was not comforting either. She laughed for nearly a full minute, while Lyion stood in growing terror. Oh, this is beautiful, the woman finally said. She wiped tears from her one real eye. I am Sergeant Nadia, and you, little glowing friend, have made my whole week. She turned toward the training yard and shouted across the compound. Her voice carried like thunder. Captain, you need to see this. Right now. The other humans stopped their training. They all turned to look at Lyion. She had never felt so small in her entire life. A shadow fell over her. Lyion looked up, and up, and up. The human standing before her was the largest she had seen. He was easily 3 times her size, with muscles that looked carved from stone. His skin was dark brown, decorated with traditional markings she did not recognize. His smile showed teeth that looked designed for tearing meat. Well, he said, his voice deep as distant thunder. What do we have here? Nadia handed him the papers, still grinning. The giant read them slowly. His expression shifted from confusion to amusement to something that might have been respect. Administrative error, he said. It was not a question. Obviously, Nadia agreed. The giant looked down at Lyion. His eyes were surprisingly kind beneath the terrifying exterior. I am Captain Bruno, he said. Welcome to Monster Unit, little one. I should not be here. Lyion managed to whisper, but Bruno's smile widened. Probably not. But you are here now. And in Monster Unit, we have a tradition. He folded her papers carefully and tucked them into his pocket. Anyone assigned to us stays with us. No exceptions. No transfers. But I cannot fight, Lyion protested. I cannot do anything useful. Bruno placed one massive hand on her shoulder with surprising gentleness. We will see about that. 12 pairs of eyes watched Lyion as she walked through the compound. 12 humans, each more terrifying than the last, stood in a loose circle around her like giants examining a strange insect that had wandered into their territory. Captain Bruno introduced them one by one. Yuki was from volcanic islands on Earth. She had lost her right arm in some battle she did not explain, and it had been replaced with something mechanical that clicked and whirred when she moved. Her smile was kind, but her eyes held darkness. Dmitri came from frozen wastelands called Siberia. He was pale as snow and rarely spoke. When Lyion looked at him directly, she could not track his movements. He seemed to blur at the edges, like he existed slightly outside normal reality. Amara was from desert tribes. Her skin was dark and smooth, her eyes golden brown and watchful. She studied Lyion with an intensity that made the Thessari feel like every secret she had ever kept was being read like open text. The twins, Rosa and Ramon, were demolition experts from mountain regions called the Andes. They finished each other's sentences and smiled too much. Lyion did not trust their smiles. There were others. So many others. Humans from jungles and swamps and places where the very air could kill. Each one had survived environments that would destroy most galactic species in hours. This is Monster Unit, Bruno said simply. We are not monsters. We are from a monster planet. Earth is a death world. Category 12. Everything there's trying to kill everything else, always, forever. We survived it. Now we protect others from things that are trying to kill them. Why keep me? Lyion asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. Tradition, Nadia said. She was leaning against a wall, watching the introduction with amusement. Last time we transferred someone out, half the squad died next mission. We are superstitious. You are ours now. I cannot fight, Lyion repeated. It was becoming her prayer, her mantra, her desperate hope for escape. Then do not fight, Bruno said. We have 12 fighters. We do not need 13. But you are crew. Crew stays together. That first night, Lyion lay in a bunk that was much too large for her small body. The humans slept around her in the barracks, and their breathing filled the darkness with sounds like great beasts at rest. She wept silently, her glow pulsing blue with misery, certain she would die in this place far from everything she knew. At some point past midnight, she felt something warm settle over her shoulders. She opened her eyes to find Yuki standing beside her bunk. The scarred woman was placing an extra blanket over Lyion with her one good hand. You look cold, Yuki whispered. We keep the barracks cool for Dmitri. His body runs hot. He suffers in warmth. Thank you, Lyion managed. Yuki patted her gently, like she was soothing a frightened animal. Then she returned to her own bunk without another word. Morning came with harsh lights and shouting and the sounds of humans preparing for another day of violence. Lyion stumbled to the meal hall, expecting nothing, hoping for nothing, wanting only to survive until she could somehow escape. She found a chair waiting at one of the tables. It was small. It was exactly the right size for her body. Someone had modified it overnight. Her food was different from what the humans ate. It was prepared according to HFY nutritional requirements. Someone had researched her species and made sure she could eat safely. Bruno sat down across from her with a plate piled high with meat and something that looked like vegetables. "You modified a chair for me," Lyion said. "You prepared special food. You are crew," Bruno said simply. "Crew gets taken care of. But you do not know me. You do not want me here." "We did not want you here," Nadia corrected, taking a seat beside Bruno. "Past tense. You are here now. Different situation. Monster unit takes care of its own." Lyion ate in confused silence. 2 hours later, a mission briefing was called. Lyion was told to attend, though she could not imagine why. She sat in a corner of the briefing room, trying to be invisible, as Bruno activated a holographic display. "Varadi Raiders," he said. "They have taken a research station in the Draven system. 53 hostages, including scientists and support staff." "Casualties?" Amara asked. "Unknown, but the hostage list includes something interesting." Bruno's eyes found Lyion in her corner. A HFY diplomatic delegation. 6 members. They were there for some kind of cultural exchange program. Lyrion's glow flared bright with shock. Her people, HFY, were being held by raiders. "We deploy in 4 hours, Bruno continued. "Standard assault protocol. Fast insertion, eliminate hostile forces, extract hostages." The briefing ended. Humans began checking weapons and preparing equipment. Lyion remained frozen in her corner. Bruno approached her slowly. "Normally, you would stay here," he said. "Safe, away from danger. We have never taken non-combat crew on missions." "But," Lyion asked, "but that is your people in there. Your kind." Bruno knelt down, so his eyes were level with hers. Despite his size, despite his scars, there was something almost gentle in his expression. "Your call a little light. You can stay here. No one will think less of you. Or you can come with us. Not to fight, just to be there when we bring them home." "I would be useless," Lyion said. "Probably," Bruno agreed. "But sometimes people need to see a friendly face after rescue. Someone who is not covered in blood and holding weapons." Lyion thought about the HFY hostages. Scared, alone, surrounded by violence they had never known existed. "I will come," she said. Bruno smiled. "Good. Nadia, find her something that fits." The dropship smelled like weapon oil and human tension. Lyion sat strapped into a communications pod near the back, surrounded by equipment that blinked and hummed with purpose she did not understand. Her orders were simple: stay hidden, relay information, do not get killed. She watched the humans prepare for war. They changed during the flight. The joking stopped. The casual cruelty of their training yard humor disappeared like morning fog. Their eyes became something else entirely. Flat, cold, focused. Dmitri checked his weapons with movements so precise they seemed mechanical. Each motion flowed into the next without pause or hesitation. Lyion counted 17 weapons on his body and suspected she had missed several. Amara sat with her eyes closed, breathing slowly, entering a state Lyrion's people called death calm. It was a mental technique used by ancient warriors from many species. Lyion had only read about it in historical texts. She had never seen it in person. The twins, Rosa and Ramon, held hands for a brief moment. Then they separated, and their faces became masks of cold efficiency. They stopped finishing each other's sentences because they no longer needed words. Yuki flexed her mechanical arm, testing each finger individually. Small blades emerged from her fingertips, retracted, emerged again. Her one good, I was already locked on some distant target only she could see. Nadia moved through the cabin, checking each soldier with quick efficiency. She paused at Lyrion's pod. "Stay hidden," she said. "No matter what you hear, no matter what you see, you do not exist until we call for you." "I understand," Lyion whispered. "No," Nadia said. "You do not, but you will." The dropship hit the research station like a meteor. Lyion felt the impact in her bones. Then the doors opened and the humans were gone, flowing out into the station like water through broken pipes. Lyrion's communication equipment came alive with sounds she would never forget. Gunfire, screaming, the wet sounds of violence that her gentle species had no words for. Human voices calling targets and positions in clipped professional tones while Varadi raiders died around them. She watched through security feeds as Monster Unit moved through the station. They were not soldiers. They were something older, something more primal. They hunted. The Varadi were known raiders, feared across 3 sectors. They had been fighting and killing for generations. Monster Unit killed them in minutes. Then the communication channels exploded with urgent chatter. Hostile commander has reached the hostage chamber. He has a blade on a civilian. Broadcasting demands now. Lyion switched her feed to the hostage chamber. Her blood went cold that a large Varadi commander stood in the center of the room. His blade was pressed against the throat of a young Thessari child. Around him, 5 other Thessari hostages knelt with their hands bound, their glows dim with terror. Coalition forces will withdraw. The commander announced to the station's broadcast system, I will kill 1 hostage every minute until they comply. Lyion watched the humans outside the chamber door. They were frozen. They could breach in seconds, but seconds were too long. The blade would find its mark before they could cross the room. We need a distraction. Bruno's voice came through the comm, something to break his attention for 2 seconds. Working on it, Nadia replied. Nothing available. Lyion looked at her screens. She looked at the chamber layout. She saw something got a maintenance duct. Too small for humans. Too small for Varadi. But just large enough for a Thessari. IT led directly behind the commander's position. Every instinct told her to stay hidden. Every training she had ever received said to wait for professionals. Every logical thought in her mind screamed that she would die. But the child, the small Thessari child with the blade at his throat, he looked like her nephew. Lyion unbuckled herself from the pod. She moved silently to the maintenance access. She squeezed inside. The duct was dark and tight and seemed to go on forever. She crawled without making a sound, forcing her glow to dim through sheer will. Her people's bioluminescence was usually a betrayal. It showed their emotions to everyone. But she had never wanted anything more than she wanted to be invisible now. She emerged in the hostage chamber behind a support pillar. The commander stood 6 feet away, still making his demands to the broadcast system. 1 minute remaining, he announced. Coalition forces have not withdrawn. Lyion looked around desperately. She saw a piece of debris, a broken support strut, heavy, sharp on one end. She had never struck another being in her entire life. Her arms were thin. Her muscles were weak. Her people were not made for violence. The commander began his countdown. 10, 9, 8. Lyion picked up the debris. 7, 6, 5. Her arms shook. 4, 3, 2. The child closed his eyes. 1. Lyion brought the debris down on the commander's head with every bit of strength her fragile body possessed. It was not a killing blow. It was barely even a damaging blow. But it was enough to make the commander stumble. His blade moved away from the child's throat. 0.2 seconds. Yuki's shot came through the window at impossible speed. The commander's head ceased to exist. The humans breached. The remaining Varadi died. The hostages were freed, and Lyion stood over the body, trembling, covered in blood that was not hers, unable to move. Bruno found her like that. He knelt down beside her. Gently, carefully, he took the debris from her shaking hands. Well, he said quietly, guess you're not just support anymore. Lyrion's glow flickered. Then she fainted. 3 months changed everything. Word spread through coalition space like fire through dry grass. A Thessari in Monster Unit. A glowing administrative specialist who crawled through maintenance ducts and struck down enemy commanders with broken metal. At first, other species laughed. Then the mission report started circulating. Lyion still could not fight. She still could not shoot. Her arms remained thin and her body remained fragile. But somewhere in those 3 months, she became something else entirely. Her small size let her access places humans could not reach. Air vents, maintenance shafts, narrow passages between ship hulls. She moved through spaces that seemed impossible, gathering intelligence, setting charges, appearing behind enemy lines like a ghost. Her species' natural empathy proved even more valuable. Thessari could detect stress pheromones from other beings. In combat, Lyion learned to read these chemical signals like a map. She could feel where enemies were hiding. She could sense when ambushes were being prepared. She became Monster Unit's early warning system. Her bioluminescence, once a betrayal that showed her every emotion, became a tool. She trained with Dimitri for weeks, learning to control her glow with perfect precision. Now she could signal silently in dark combat zones. A pulse of blue meant enemies ahead. 2 pulses meant clear path. Rapid flashing meant retreat immediately. The galaxy noticed. Verati raiders called her the Ghost Light. They told stories of a glowing spirit that appeared behind their commanders and brought death with her presence. 3 separate captains surrendered rather than face her. A Kraken war chief offered a massive bounty for her capture. When Monster Unit found out, they raided his flagship and left him tied to his command chair with a note that said, "She is ours. Try again and we return." Intelligence agencies from 4 different galactic powers tried to recruit her. They offered wealth. They offered status. They offered safety. "I am Monster Unit," she told each one. "I stay with my family." The humans taught her everything that was not combat. Dimitri showed her to move without sound. He spent hours making her walk across surfaces covered in dried leaves and broken glass until she could cross them in perfect silence. "Sound is enemy," he said in his rare broken sentences. "Silence is life." Amara taught her to read environments for tactical advantage. Every room had weak points. Every corridor had blind spots. Every situation had possibilities that could be exploited by someone small enough and clever enough to see them. The twins taught her demolitions theory. Lyion discovered she had a gift for identifying structural weaknesses. She could look at a building and understand exactly where to place charges for maximum effect. "You have good eyes for destruction," Rosa said approvingly. "It is just physics," Lyion replied. "Things want to fall down. I simply help them." Yuki taught her field medicine. Lyrion's small hands proved perfect for delicate work that human fingers were too large to perform. She learned to seal wounds, restart hearts, and keep soldiers alive until proper medical care could reach them. She no longer feared the humans. She had learned their secret. They were not monsters at all. They were survivors of a monster planet. Every one of them had grown up in environments where death was constantly present. Volcanoes, frozen wastelands, burning deserts, poison jungles. They had survived by becoming harder, faster, stronger than everything trying to kill them. And then they had chosen to use that strength to protect others. Somewhere along the way, they had adopted her completely. The alert came at midnight. Bruno called emergency assembly. Every member of Monster Unit gathered in the briefing room within 2 minutes. Lyion sat in her modified chair, her glow steady with practiced calm. "Colony world in the Draven system," Bruno said. His voice was heavy. 40,000 civilians. Mining settlement. A Drekker hive ship just arrived in orbit. The room went silent. Lyion knew about Drekker. Everyone knew about Drekker. They were an insectoid species that consumed organic matter to reproduce. They did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They landed on worlds and ate everything alive until nothing remained. "Evacuation?" Nadia asked. "Impossible. The ships we have cannot carry 40,000 people. The fleet is 3 days away. So we hold," Yuki said. "We hold," Bruno confirmed. "Command wants us to buy time. Not to win, just to slow them down enough for the fleet to arrive." "Expected survival rate?" Dimitri asked. Bruno was quiet for a moment. "Though," he said finally, "Command does not expect us to survive. They expect us to die usefully." The humans checked their weapons. No one complained. No one argued. No one asked to stay behind. Lyrion's glow flickered but did not dim. "I am coming," she said. Bruno looked at her. "Little light. This is not like other missions. There is no extraction plan. There is no rescue if things go wrong. This is likely the end. I know, Lyion said. I'm still coming. I am Monster Unit. Bruno smiled. It was not a happy smile, but it was genuine. Then let us go save some colonists. The dropship launched 30 minutes later. 12 humans and one small glowing Thessari, falling toward a world about to be consumed by hungry darkness. Lyion was not afraid. She was angry. The hive ship hung above the colony like a second moon made of chitin and malice. It was larger than anything Lyion had ever seen. Organic growths pulsed along its surface like veins carrying dark blood. Launch bays opened in its belly, releasing swarms of Drekker landing pods toward the surface below. Monster Unit hit the ground running. The colony was chaos. Civilians fled toward the central bunker. Emergency sirens screamed. The sky filled with descending shapes that promised only death. Bruno's plan was simple, because simple plans survive contact with enemies. 3 choke points. 3 defensive positions where the colony's architecture created narrow passages the Drekker would have to funnel through. 12 humans spread across 3 positions, for each holding the line while 40,000 civilians reached safety. The math was brutal. 12 soldiers against millions of Drekker. 6 hours was the expected survival time. They needed to hold for 72. Position 1 holding, Nadia reported through comms. Position 2 holding, the twins said together. Position 3 holding, Dmitri said. 2 words. Maximum communication from him. Lyion moved between positions, crawling through spaces too small for humans, too small for Drekker. She relayed tactical information. She spotted enemy movements. She became the thread connecting all 3 defensive points. The first wave hit like a living tsunami. Drekker were not intelligent by galactic standards. They operated on instinct, guided by their hive mind connection. But they were endless. For every one that fell, 10 more climbed over the body. The humans became something Lyion had never fully witnessed. They fought with efficiency that made her understand why the galaxy feared them. They rotated positions seamlessly. They covered each other's reloads. They killed with mechanical precision. Hour 6 passed. Still holding, hour 12. Ramon took a claw through his shoulder. Rosa dragged him back, sealed the wound with field medicine, and returned him to the firing line. He kept shooting with one working arm. Hour 20. Dmitri stopped speaking entirely. He entered some silent battle trance where his body moved independent of thought. His kill count climbed into numbers that seemed impossible. Hour 30. Amara ran out of ammunition. She did not retreat. She drew her blades and kept fighting. Her golden eyes showed nothing but calm certainty. Lyion saved 11 children during hour 35. A group of civilians had been cut off from the main evacuation route. She led them through maintenance tunnels, guiding them with her glow, her light a beacon in the darkness. When Drekker followed, she triggered charges the twins had taught her to place. The tunnel collapsed behind them. Hour 42. Yuki's mechanical arm stopped working. She ripped it off and kept fighting with her remaining hand. When a Drekker got too close, she killed it with her teeth. Hour 48. The defensive line failed. Drekker breached the inner compound. They poured through gaps that exhausted soldiers could no longer cover. Bruno ordered retreat to final positions around the central bunker. Everyone fall back to the bunker. Now, Lyion watched the humans comply. They moved in disciplined withdrawal, still fighting, still killing, but giving ground. The bunker doors remained open, waiting to seal once everyone was inside. I will hold the main corridor, Bruno announced through comms. Everyone else reinforced the bunker. Captain Nadia started. That is an order. Someone has to buy time for the doors to seal. Get the colonists protected. Lyion understood what he was saying. He would hold the corridor alone. He would die alone. It was simple math. 1 life to save thousands. She refused. While the others withdrew to the bunker, Lyion moved through the colony's infrastructure. She had spent hours studying the settlement's layout. She knew its systems better than anyone. The power grid, Thessari bioluminescence operated on specific light frequencies. During her months with Monster Unit, she had discovered something interesting. Her glow, at certain frequencies, disrupted Drecker chemical communication. The hive mind signal that coordinated their attacks could be scrambled by the right kind of light. She had never tried it at scale. The equipment she needed did not exist. She would build it. Lyion reached the colony's main power station. Her small hands flew across controls. She rerouted energy feeds. She modified output frequencies. She connected her own bioluminescence to the colony's lighting grid that IT would probably kill her. The energy required would burn out her light-producing organs permanently. She might not survive at all. She did it anyway. The colony's lights changed color. Blue pulse spread from the power station outward, flowing through every lighting fixture, every display screen, every illuminated surface in the settlement. Lyrian's glow amplified through the entire grid. Her light became the colony's light, and every Drecker in range staggered. Their hive mind connection scrambled. Their coordinated attacks fell apart. They stumbled into each other, confused, unable to communicate, unable to receive instructions from the hive ship above. The swarm froze. For one impossible moment, everything stopped. Bruno's voice came through the comm. Fleet just dropped out of hyperspace. Cavalry's here. Coalition warships filled the sky. Weapons fire rained down on the hive ship. The Drecker, their coordination destroyed by Lyrion's light, could not organize a response. Lyion watched coalition forces clean up the remaining threats. She watched rescue ships land. She watched medics rush toward the bunker. Her glow faded. Her vision darkened. She had saved them. 40,000 colonists. Wulbomans. One small Thessari who was never supposed to be a soldier. She collapsed beside the power station, her light going out completely for the first time since she was born. The last thing she heard was Yuki's voice screaming her name. Light returned slowly. Lyion opened her eyes to find herself in a medical bay. Clean white walls. Soft humming machines. The smell of antiseptic and healing. She tried to glow. Nothing happened. She tried again. A faint flicker, barely visible, pulsed along her skin and faded. The doctors are not sure if your bioluminescence will fully recover, a voice said. Lyion turned her head. Bruno sat beside her bed, looking exhausted but alive. His wounds had been treated. His arm was in a sling. How long? She asked. Her voice was rough. 3 days. You nearly died. The energy feedback almost destroyed your nervous system. He smiled slightly. You saved 40,000 people. Monster Unit, all alive. Injuries, but nothing permanent. Well, nothing permanent that was not already permanent. He gestured to his own collection of old scars. Lyion tried to sit up. Bruno gently pushed her back down. Rest. That is an order. She rested. The days that followed brought visitors. Coalition Command sent representatives who wanted to award her the highest honors available. They spoke of medals and ceremonies in recognition across all allied species. No, Lyion said. The representatives were confused. No, I was just doing my job. I'm Monster Unit. We do not need medals to know what we did. They left disappointed, but did not argue. The Thessari diplomatic delegation she had saved during her first mission arrived on the 3rd day. The young child whose life she had protected stood at the front of the group. He was taller now, healthier, his glow strong and steady. I am studying to become a diplomat, he told her. Because of you, because you showed me that even peaceful species can be brave. I was terrified, Lyion admitted. Every single moment. That is what makes it brave, the child said. My teachers say courage is not the absence of fear. It is action despite fear. He gave her a small crystal from their homeworld, a memory stone used to hold moments of importance. On Thessar, we tell stories about you now, he said. The light of Monster Unit. The ghost who glows. Lyion held the crystal carefully. Her dim glow reflected in its surface. Thessari High Command sent their offer on day 5. A position of honor on her homeworld. Administrative role of great prestige. Safe. Comfortable. Everything she had once dreamed of before the clerical error that changed her life. She read the offer 3 times. Then she went to find Captain Bruno. He was in the common room with the rest of Monster Unit. They were pretending to play cards, but Lyion noticed their eyes kept moving toward the door. Waiting. I receive an offer, she said. From my homeworld. The humans went very still. Yuki set down her cards. Dmitri actually looked up from his hands. Good position? Bruno asked. His voice was carefully neutral. Very good. Safe. Prestigious. You should take it, Nadia said. Her voice cracked slightly. You have earned something better than this. I have, Lyion agreed. She walked to the center of the room. 12 humans watched her with expressions they were trying hard to keep controlled. I have earned the right to choose where I belong, Lyion continued. And I choose here. I am Monster Unit. I am staying with my family. The room exploded. Yuki started crying and immediately claimed allergies. The twins hugged each other and then hugged Lyion, nearly crushing her small body. Amara smiled for the first time Lyion had ever seen. Dmitri spoke a complete sentence. I made her a chair. It was a chair designed for Thessari anatomy, carved from what Bruno had brought from his homeland on Earth. They had painted it with traditional Monster Unit markings. It matched theirs. Welcome home, little light, Bruno said. 6 months passed that Lyion's bioluminescence returned slowly. It would never be as bright as before, but it was steady now. Constant. A small beacon that lit whatever darkness surrounded her. She was reviewing supply requests in the common room when the communication panel activated. New recruit incoming, Nadia announced. Another administrative error. Lyion set down her work. What species? Gorvani. 8 feet tall. Natural armor. Probably terrified out of her mind. Lyion stood up. She walked toward the compound gate, her glow pulsing softly with each step. The new recruit stood frozen exactly where Lyion had stood 6 months ago. She was massive by galactic standards, towering over even the largest humans. Her armored hide was thick and impressive. Her eyes were wide with fear. You must be the new crew, Lyion said, approaching her. I am Lyion. Welcome to Monster Unit. The Gorvani stared down at the small, glowing being addressing her. I should not be here. There has been a mistake. I am not a soldier. Neither was I, Lyion said. Kulme, I will show you to your bunk. We have already researched your nutritional requirements. Dmitri is carving you a chair. I do not understand. Lyion started walking toward the barracks. After a moment, the confused giant followed. The humans look scary, Lyion said. I know. I was terrified when I first arrived, but they are actually quite wonderful once you get to know them. They will teach you things about yourself you never knew. They will protect you. They will make you family. Behind them, 12 humans gathered at the common room windows, watching. Bruno was already making notes about Gorvani dietary preferences. Yuki was arguing with the twins about who would give the welcome speech. Trust me, Lyion said, her glow steady and warm. I used to be afraid too. The Gorvani looked at the small Thessari walking beside her. Looked at the compound full of the most dangerous soldiers in the galaxy. Looked at the welcome in their eyes despite their terrifying appearances. Okay, she said finally. I trust you. Lyion smiled. Monster Unit had gained another member. The legend continued.